This is a fictional American romance story created using AI for entertainment purposes only, intended strictly for audiences 18 years and older and not suitable for children under 18.
The first time Clara Whitmore imagined applause, she was standing in her kitchen in Dayton, Ohio, barefoot on cool tile, stirring tomato sauce while her daughter colored at the table. Outside, the neighborhood was predictably quiet. Lawns trimmed, mailboxes upright, the kind of street where nothing dramatic ever happened. Daniel Harper stood at the counter behind her, reviewing blueprints on his tablet. He looked up occasionally, offering small smiles. He was the kind of man who noticed when the trash needed taking out, who kissed her shoulder without asking for anything in return. "You're quiet tonight," he said gently. "I'm just tired," Clara replied, though she wasn't. She wasn't tired, she was restless. In her mind, the hum of the refrigerator transformed into a crowd's murmur. The pop of simmering sauce became distant applause. She imagined stepping forward, lights warming her skin, her name spoken with reverence. Clara Whitmore. Not Mom. Not Danielle's wife. Her. Later that night, after Lily had been tucked into bed, after Clara read Goodnight Moon with exaggerated theatrical voices, she lingered by her daughter's door. "Mom," Lily whispered sleepily. "Yes, baby? Will you still be here when I wake up?" The question startled her. Of course I will. And she meant it, at least then. Clara had studied theater at Northwestern years ago. She'd once believed she would live in New York, auditioning for roles, scraping by on coffee and ambition. But life had intervened. Daniel's steady love, an unexpected pregnancy, a choice that felt mature and responsible. Everyone praised her. She chose stability. She chose family. She made the right decision. But no one asked what she gave up. The audition email arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Subject line, casting opportunity, silver line pictures. Her former college friend had submitted her name without telling her. It was for a supporting role in a streaming drama filming in Los Angeles. She read the email 3 times before forwarding it to Daniel. When he came home, she was sitting at the kitchen table, laptop open, hands trembling slightly. "It's probably nothing," she said quickly. "Just a small role." Daniel read the email carefully. "They want you to tape an audition," he said. "Yeah." He looked at her, not suspicious, not threatened, just thoughtful. "You should do it." The simplicity of his support made her chest ache. "You think so? I've never seen you light up the way you do when you talk about acting," he said. "Even if it goes nowhere, you know you tried." Tried. The word felt like oxygen. She filmed the audition in their living room while Daniel operated the camera and Lily giggled off screen. Clara delivered her lines with a hunger she didn't recognize in herself anymore. For 2 days, she told herself it was over. On the 3rd, her phone rang. Los Angeles area code. "Clara Whitmore?" a brisk female voice asked. "We'd like to fly you out for a screen test." The room seemed to tilt. Daniel was the first person she looked at. He smiled wide, proud. Lily clapped without fully understanding. "Does this mean Mom is going to be on TV?" "Maybe," Clara whispered. "Maybe." Los Angeles in August felt like stepping into a different dimension. The air smelled of ambition and sunscreen. Palm trees lined streets named after dreams. On the studio lot, Clara saw women thinner, sharper, louder. Men with perfect teeth and measured charm. And then she met Ethan Cole. He was in his early 40s, effortlessly confident, the executive producer of the series. He shook her hand, holding it half a second too long. "We've heard good things," he said. His eyes lingered, not crude, just assessing. During the screen test, Clara felt something ignite. She delivered her lines not as a suburban mother pretending to be someone else, but as someone who had been waiting years to be seen. When she finished, the silence was thick. Ethan leaned back. "That," he said quietly, "is what we've been missing." The offer came that evening. Recurring role, 6-month contract, potential for expansion. Clara sat on the hotel bed staring at the contract while Daniel's voice crackled through speakerphone. 6 months, she said. "I'd have to be here most of the time." There was a pause. "We can make it work," Daniel said carefully. "You don't sound sure. I don't want you to regret not doing it." She closed her eyes. "What if I lose everything here?" "You won't," he said firmly. "We're not that fragile." But neither of them knew how distance reshapes love. The night before she flew back to Ohio to pack, Clara stood alone on her hotel balcony. Below her, traffic glowed red and white like veins of light. She imagined her name in credits. She imagined interviews. She imagined applause. Back in Ohio, Daniel folded laundry, setting aside her favorite sweater. Lily slept, hugging Clara's pillow. Neither of them felt the shift yet. But somewhere between Dayton and Los Angeles, between wedding vows and studio contracts, a fracture had begun. It was quiet, almost invisible, like the moment before the lights dim and the spotlight finds its mark. The contract arrived in a thick overnight envelope, heavier than paper should be. Clara held it at the kitchen island as if it might dissolve if he opened it too quickly. Outside, early autumn brushed Dayton in amber. Inside, Daniel packed Lily's lunch for school, slicing apples with steady hands. Did they send revisions? He asked without looking up. No, Clara said, it's the official one. Daniel wiped his hands on a dish towel and walked toward her. He didn't rush. He never rushed. That had once been one of the things she loved most about him, the way he moved through life like nothing needed to be chased. She slid the contract toward him. 6 months, recurring supporting character, filming primarily in Los Angeles, options for season 2. It says, primary residence required during production, Daniel noted quietly. It's standard, Clara replied too quickly. It just means I need to be available. He scanned further down. You'd be gone most weekdays. I can fly home on weekends. It's a 4-hour flight. 4.5, he corrected gently. She forced a laugh. That's nothing. Nothing. They both knew it wasn't nothing. That night, after Lily was asleep, they sat on the couch in the dim living room. The television played something neither of them watched. You've wanted this, Daniel said finally. I wanted to act. I didn't think it would actually happen. But it is. She turned to him, her voice softening. It's temporary. 6 months. We'll treat it like a long business trip. And after 6 months, I come home. The answer sounded clean, manageable. Daniel studied her face. And if they extend you? She hesitated, just half a second. We'll cross that bridge if it comes. He nodded slowly, but something in his expression shifted, something like a man watching a tide he couldn't control. I don't want Lily thinking you're choosing something over her, he said carefully. I'm not, Clara replied. I'm choosing something for us. Imagine the stability, Daniel, the opportunities. But beneath the justification, another truth whispered. I'm choosing something for me. The departure morning came too quickly. Lily clung to Clara's waist at the airport drop-off. Don't forget me, she said, half joking, half afraid. Clara crouched down, brushing hair from her daughter's face. How could I ever forget you? You promise you'll come back every weekend? I promise. Daniel loaded her suitcase onto the curb. Text when you land, he said. They kissed brief, polite, like a couple trying not to make a scene. When Clara stepped through the sliding glass doors, she felt something tighten in her chest. For a moment, she considered turning around. Instead, she kept walking. On the plane, she watched Ohio shrink beneath clouds. The patchwork fields gave way to endless sky. She opened Instagram and posted a photo of the wing against sunrise. New beginnings, grateful for the journey. Within minutes, notifications bloomed across her screen. So proud of you. Dream big. You deserve this. Each comment felt like a small spark, warming parts of her that had been cold for years. When the plane landed in Los Angeles, the air felt different, charged, humming. A car service waited with her name printed neatly on a sign. Clara Whitmore, not Mrs. Harper, not Mom, just Clara. She didn't realize it yet, but the distance had already begun, not in miles, but in identity. The first week of rehearsals was a blur of scripts, costume fittings, and table reads. Her character, Elena Cross, was sharp, ambitious, morally ambiguous. The kind of woman audiences love to debate online. You have an edge that surprises people, the showrunner told her. It's compelling. Clara smiled. She had always had that edge. She just learned to hide it. Ethan Cole watched her from the back of the room during the first full cast rehearsal. Where she finished a particularly charged scene, he approached her. You're settling in fast, he said. I'm trying to. Don't try, he replied smoothly. Own it. Their eyes held a beat too long. Professional, encouraging, almost electric. Back in Ohio, Daniel stood in the kitchen alone for the first time in years. The house sounded different without her footsteps. Lily pushed peas around her plate. When's Mom coming home? She asked. Friday night. That's forever. Daniel smiled gently. It'll go fast. But when he lay in bed that night, Clara's side felt too cold. He scrolled through her social media. Photos from set, cast selfies, Studio lighting. She looked radiant. He typed a comment, then deleted it. Typed again. Proud of you. He hit send. Thousands of others had already written similar words. Friday came. Her flight was delayed, then cancelled. Just one weekend, she said through the phone, pacing her apartment in West Hollywood. They added a scene. Daniel closed his eyes briefly. It's okay, he replied. We understand. Behind him, Lily's shoulders slumped. Clara stared at her reflection in the dark window after the call ended. It's temporary, she told herself. Temporary sacrifices, temporary distance, temporary loneliness. She poured a glass of wine and opened her script. Her phone buzzed. Ethan. Great work today. Drinks tomorrow? Cast thing. She hesitated only a moment. Sure. That night, she dreamed of two houses. One was bright under studio lights, applause echoing in endless corridors. The other was quiet, porch light glowing softly against Midwestern dark. In the dream, she tried to stand between them, but the ground kept stretching wider. When she woke, Los Angeles sunlight streamed across unfamiliar walls. Her phone buzzed with production emails. In Ohio, Daniel braided Lily's hair awkwardly before school. Some distances cannot be measured by flight time. They begin the moment someone chooses not where they are, but who they are becoming. By the third week in Los Angeles, Clara had learned the rhythm of the studio lot. The early morning hum of golf carts, the scent of burnt coffee in paper cups, the way ambition moved through hallways like an unspoken current. Her trailer had her name printed in black vinyl letters now, Clara Whitmore. The first time she saw it, she ran her fingers lightly over the lettering, as if testing whether it would peel away. It didn't. Inside, a vase of white orchids sat on the small counter. No card, but she knew. Ethan. The cast gathering that Saturday night was at a private rooftop lounge in West Hollywood. String lights flickered against a violet sky, and the city passed beneath them like something alive. Clara wore a black dress she had bought that afternoon on Impulse. Sleek, unfamiliar. Not something she would have worn to a PTA fundraiser. You clean up dangerous, Ethan said when he approached her at the bar. She smiled, tilting her head. Is that a compliment? It's an observation. He ordered her a drink without asking what she wanted. She didn't correct him. Around them, afters laughed too loudly. Assistants hovered. Phones flashed photos for Instagram stories that would disappear in 24 hours but live forever in algorithms. You're adjusting well, Ethan said, leaning closer so she could hear him over the music. Some people come here and shrink. And you expected me to shrink? I wasn't sure yet. His gaze didn't move away from hers. It wasn't crude. It wasn't even overt. It was evaluative, as if he were deciding something. Later that night, when most of the cast had drifted into smaller circles, Ethan found her standing at the railing overlooking the city. It gets under your skin, he said, nodding toward the skyline. This place. It already has, she admitted. That's good. Good? If you don't fall a little in love with it, you won't fight hard enough to stay. The word stay lingered between them. I'm not staying, Clara replied lightly. 6 months. Ethan's mouth curved slightly. They all say that. Back in Ohio, Daniel sat at the kitchen table scrolling through Clara's latest post. A rooftop photo, city lights behind her. Captioned, "Grateful for this wild ride." He zoomed in unconsciously. A man's shoulder appeared at the edge of the frame. Suit jacket, familiar from promotional photos. Ethan Cole. Daniel told himself it meant nothing, but he noticed Clara hadn't called yet. It was past midnight in Ohio. The first time Ethan tasked her, it was almost accidental. They were reviewing a scene alone in his office, an intense confrontation between her character and the show's male lead. Clara struggled with one line. It feels forced, she said, dropping the script onto the table. She wouldn't beg like that. She's not begging, Ethan replied. She's choosing vulnerability. She doesn't strike me as vulnerable. He stepped closer. You play her like you're afraid of letting her need something. The comment landed too close. I'm not afraid, Clara said. Ethan reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His fingers lingered at her jaw. Then show me. The room felt smaller suddenly. Her pulse quickened not just from him, but from the challenge. From being seen in a way that felt sharp and intoxicating. This is professional, she told herself. Guidance, direction. But when his hand slid from her jaw to the back of her neck, professionalism thinned into something else. You have no idea how rare you are, he murmured. The sentence was gasoline. No one had spoken to her like that in years. Not because Daniel didn't love her, but because Daniel loved her in a steady, predictable way. Like sunrise. Ethan loved like fire, and fire demanded oxygen. She pulled back first. "I'm married," she said, the words sounding distant even to her own ears. "I know, that should matter." "It does," he replied calmly. "To you." The implication was clear. He stepped away, giving her space. "I'm not asking you for anything you don't want," he added, "but don't pretend you don't feel it." He left the office without another word. Clara stood there alone, staring at her reflection in the darkened window. Her cheeks were flushed, her breathing uneven. She picked up her phone. A text from Daniel waited. "Lily scored her first goal at soccer today. She kept looking at the sidelines for you." The words pierced deeper than Ethan's touch. Clara typed quickly. "I'm so proud of her. I'll FaceTime in the morning." She set the phone down. She did not mention Ethan. The next few days were a quiet war inside her. On set, Ethan remained composed, professional, distant enough to make her wonder if she had imagined everything, which only made her think about it more. During one late shoot, as the crew adjusted lighting, Clara sat alone in the dim glow of the set. "You okay?" Ethan's voice came softly from behind her. "Just tired." He sat beside her. "You're carrying something," he said. He chose. "You don't know me well enough to say that." "I know ambition when I see it," he replied, "and I know what it costs." She turned to him. "And what does it cost?" "Everything that asks you to be smaller." The words were seductive not because they were romantic, but because they justified her hunger. Her phone buzzed again. "Daniel." She silenced it. Ethan noticed. "You don't have to choose tonight," he said quietly. "But you will have to choose eventually." The studio lights flicked on suddenly, flooding the set with artificial daylight. In that brightness, decisions felt abstract. It was easier to step into character than into truth. It happened on a Thursday. Rain streaked down the windows of her apartment. Production had wrapped late. She was exhausted, raw from an emotionally brutal scene. There was a knock at the door. Ethan stood there, jacket damp from rain. "I was nearby," he said. That was a lie. They both knew it. He stepped inside. No music, no dramatic declarations, just closeness. "You deserve more than a life that shrinks you," he whispered. And she wanted to believe that wanting more didn't make her cruel. When he kissed her, she didn't stop him. Not because she forgot Daniel, not because she stopped loving her daughter, but because, in that moment, she loved the version of herself reflected in Ethan's eyes. Desired, powerful, unapologetic. The line between ambition and desire dissolved completely. Later, when he had left and the apartment was silent again, Clara sat on the edge of her bed staring at her wedding ring. It looked smaller somehow. Her phone lit up. A missed call from Daniel, a voicemail notification. She didn't press play. Outside, Los Angeles shimmered indifferent, glittering, hungry. And somewhere far away in Ohio, a porch light stayed on longer than necessary. Not because anyone expected her home that night, but because hope is slow to understand when it has been replaced. The premiere was held on a Thursday night in downtown Los Angeles, inside the restored Art Deco theater that smelled faintly of velvet and history. Flashbulbs snapped in rhythmic bursts as cast members stepped onto the red carpet one by one. When Clara emerged from the black SUV, the noise swelled. "Clara, over here! Clara, who are you wearing?" She paused, turning slightly, letting the cameras find her angles the way Ethan had taught her. Chin down, eyes steady. Smile, but not too wide. For a moment, just a sliver of time, she felt weightless. "This is what I chose," she thought. Inside the theater, the first episode played on a towering screen. Her character, Elena Cross, entered halfway through, sharp, composed, magnetic. The audience reacted audibly to her scenes. Beside her, Ethan leaned close. "You hear that?" he murmured. "That's ownership." Ownership. The word threaded through her veins like something addictive. Her phone vibrated softly in her clutch. Daniel. She declined the call. In Ohio, Daniel stood in the living room with Lily perched on his hip, the television tuned to a live stream of the premiere arrivals. "There she is!" Lily squealed when Clara appeared on screen. Daniel forced a smile. "She looks beautiful," he said. "She looks different," Lily replied. Daniel didn't answer that. He watched as a reporter asked Clara about balancing fame and motherhood. Clara laughed lightly. It's all about priorities, she said into the microphone. Family always comes first. Daniel muted the television. Later that night, still in her gown, Clara propped her phone against a vanity mirror in a dressing room to FaceTime home. Lily appeared instantly. "Mom, I saw you on TV." Clara smiled, kicking off her heels. "Did you like it?" "You were kind of mean," Lily said honestly. Clara laughed. "That's acting, baby." Daniel stepped into frame behind her daughter. "You did great," he said. His voice was warm but measured. "I tried calling earlier," he added casually. "I know," she said. "It was loud." There was a beat. "We watched together," he said. "I wish I could have been there with you." She meant it, but even as she said it, she knew she wouldn't have traded the red carpet for the couch. The affair with Dayton slid into routine the way secrets often do, quietly, without announcement. They didn't define it. They didn't need to. There were late-night script discussions that ended in tangled sheets, lingering glances during table reads, subtle touches that no one else seemed to notice or pretended not to. "You're glowing," one of the makeup artists commented one morning. Clara smiled at her reflection. She was glowing, but not from innocence. Her social media following tripled in a month. Brands began reaching out, stylists offered free gowns, fitness companies asked for collaborations. One afternoon, Clara staged a casual photo in her kitchen, organic smoothie in hand, script pages artfully scattered on marble countertops. Caption: "Finding balance in the chaos. #working mom." Within minutes, thousands of likes. Comments flooded in. "You're such an inspiration, showing women we can have it all. How do you stay so grounded?" Grounded. She stared at the word longer than necessary. Her phone buzzed again. Daniel. This time she answered. "Hey," she said brightly. "You busy?" "Always," she joked. There was a pause on the other end. "I was just calling," he said. "You sounded far away last night." "I was tired." "No," he replied gently. "I mean in general." She leaned back against the counter. "I'm right here. Are you?" The question landed heavier than accusation. She bristled slightly. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," he said quickly. "Forget it." But he didn't forget, and neither did she. Distance isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a missed detail. A forgotten story. A voice that no longer asks follow-up questions. During one FaceTime call, Lily held up a drawing. "It's our house," she explained. "See? That's you in the window." Clara smiled. "Why am I inside?" "Because you're never outside with us anymore." Daniel's eyes flicked to the camera, then away. Clara swallowed. "I'll be home this weekend," she said. But by Friday afternoon, the production schedule shifted again. They added pickup shots, she told Daniel over the phone, pacing her living room. "Just one more weekend." Silence hummed between them. "Okay," he said finally. He didn't argue. That was almost worse. Ethan noticed the tension immediately. "You're distracted," he said one evening as they sat on her balcony overlooking the city. "I cancelled another trip home." And it's my daughter." He exhaled slowly. "Clara, guilt is part of ambition. If you let it drive, you'll never move forward. She's 8, and you're finally becoming who you're meant to be." She looked at him. "Why does it feel like those two things can't coexist?" "Because something always pays," he said quietly. She didn't ask what. She already knew. Back in Ohio, Daniel lay awake long after Lily had fallen asleep. He replayed conversations in his head, analyzing tone, word choice, the seconds of hesitation before Clara answered certain questions. He wasn't a jealous man by nature, but absence creates space, and space invites doubt. One night, scrolling mindlessly, he paused at a photo posted by a fan account, Clara laughing at something off camera. Ethan stood close behind her, his hand low on her back. Too low. Daniel zoomed in. The image blurred, but the implication didn't. When Clara returned home briefly the following week, her first visit in nearly a month, the house felt smaller. Lily ran to her. Daniel hugged her. But something subtle had shifted. At dinner, conversation stumbled. Clara checked her phone twice. Lily noticed. "Is it more important than us?" Lily asked bluntly. "No," Clara said immediately. But she turned the phone face down instead of off. That night, lying beside Daniel in the dark, she felt his arm around her, but there was restraint in it. "Are you happy?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she answered. He didn't ask with me, and she didn't clarify. On her flight back to Los Angeles Sunday morning, Clara stared at the reflection in the airplane window. She saw two versions of herself layered over each other. The woman in designer heels stepping onto red carpets, and the mother kneeling beside the child's bed. Both real, both incomplete. Her phone buzzed. Ethan, miss you already. Seconds later, another message. Daniel, Lily cried after you left. She tried not to. Clara closed her eyes. Applause echoed in her memory, loud, affirming. But beneath it, softer and more persistent, was the sound of something fragile beginning to crack. And for the first time, she wasn't sure which life would shatter first. It happened on a Tuesday morning, the kind that begins ordinarily and ends with something irreversible. Clara was in hair and makeup when her publicist, Marla, entered the trailer without knocking. Marla never entered without knocking. Tell me it's fake, she said, holding out her phone. Clara frowned. What? She saw the headline before she saw the image. Rising star Clara Whitmore in secret affair with married producer Ethan Cole. The photo beneath it was unmistakable. A grainy shot of her apartment balcony. Ethan's hand cupping her face, her body leaning into his. Another photo, a kiss. Not artistic, not cinematic. Intimate, private, stolen. Her stomach dropped so violently she had to grip the edge of the counter. How? She whispered. Paparazzi have been tracking Ethan for months, Marla said sharply. His divorce rumors. They caught you in the frame. Clara's throat tightened. Daniel. Marla's expression softened, but only slightly. You need to call him before he sees it somewhere else. Too late. Her phone was already vibrating relentlessly. Daniel. Again. And again. In Ohio, Daniel had opened his laptop with coffee in hand, intending to check emails before work. Instead, he saw his wife's face on a gossip site he had never visited before. The photos loaded slowly, each pixel clarifying betrayal. He stared at them longer than he should have. There is a moment when denial fights for breath, then suffocates. Lily walked into the kitchen rubbing her eyes. Dad? He closed the laptop too quickly, but she had seen his face. What's wrong? He forced air into his lungs. Nothing, he said. He had never lied to her before. Clara stepped outside the trailer to call him. He answered on the first ring. Silence greeted her. Daniel, how long? He asked. No yelling, no accusations. Just a question that carried years inside it. It didn't mean how long. Her mouth felt dry. A few weeks. A sharp inhale on the other end. We watched your premiere together, he said quietly. Lily was so proud. Guilt flooded her chest like ice water. It's complicated, she whispered. No, he replied, it's not. She pressed her back against the trailer wall. I never meant to hurt you, but you did. The simplicity of it cut deeper than anger. I'm coming home, she said suddenly. I'll get on a flight tonight. He didn't answer immediately. Don't, he said finally. The word echoed. Daniel, I need space. Lily needs space. The call ended. On set, whispers traveled faster than lighting adjustments. Crew members avoided eye contact. Castmates offered tight, sympathetic smiles. Ethan found her near the soundstage doors. This will blow over, he said calmly. Blow over, she repeated. It's Hollywood. Scandal fuels ratings. My daughter saw it. Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. We were careful. Careful? She almost laughed. We were reckless. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You're not going to let this ruin everything we've built. We. The word felt different now. What exactly have we built? She asked. Something flickered in his expression. Annoyance, maybe? Don't get sentimental, he said. It was never about that. The air between them shifted. It wasn't, she whispered. He hesitated only a fraction too long. You're talented, he said carefully. That's why this matters. That's why this matters? Not because of her, because of optics, because of investment. The realization settled slowly and painfully. She had mistaken intensity for intimacy. By afternoon, the studio released a statement. Silverline Pictures does not condone personal conduct that distracts from our creative mission. We are reviewing contractual obligations. Reviewing, a polite word for distancing. Her scenes were quietly reduced over the next week. Interviews were cancelled. Brand collaborations paused pending clarification. Ethan stopped answering personal texts. When she confronted him in his office, he kept his voice even. "You need to lay low," he said. "Publicly, we were colleagues, that's all." Her chest tightened. "That's not what you said before." He met her gaze steadily. "Don't confuse chemistry with commitment." The words felt like a door closing. The divorce papers arrived via overnight mail 3 days later. Daniel hadn't called, hadn't texted, just signed. Irreconcilable differences. She stared at his signature for a long time, the steadiness of his handwriting. He had always written carefully, as if permanence mattered. She dialed his number anyway. Voicemail. She tried Lily's tablet, declined. She left a message. "Baby, please talk to me. I love you. I never stop loving you." Hours later, a text came from Daniel instead. "She doesn't want to speak right now." Right now. 2 words heavy with finality. The apartment felt cavernous that night. No applause, no notifications. Even the gossip cycle had begun to move on to fresher scandals, newer faces. Clara sat on the floor with her back against the couch, staring at the dark ceiling. Her phone screen glowed faintly beside her. Thousands of comments, half defending her, half condemning. Homewrecker, empowered woman, selfish mother, role model. The internet had decided she was all of it at once. But none of them mattered as much as the silence from Ohio. She opened her photo gallery. A picture of Lily missing her front tooth. Daniel asleep on the couch with a book on his chest. A family selfie at Cedar Point last summer. They looked ordinary, happy, untouched. She pressed the phone to her chest and finally let herself cry, not for the headlines, not for the studio, not even for Ethan, but for the porch light that might no longer be left on. For the bedtime stories she could not rewind. For the moment in the kitchen, years ago, when applause had first echoed in her imagination and she had not understood what it would cost. Outside her window, Los Angeles glittered as it always did. Unmoved, unapologetic. And for the first time since she had stepped onto that red carpet, Clara felt not luminous, but exposed. The phone stopped ringing first. Not all at once, just gradually, like applause thinning into scattered claps before dissolving entirely. Clara noticed it on a Monday morning when she woke instinctively at 7 a.m., expecting emails from production, call sheets, scheduling changes. Her inbox was quiet. No studio updates, no PR strategy drafts, no brand managers asking for statements. Just promotional newsletters and a reminder that her car lease payment was due. Outside her West Hollywood apartment, the sidewalk was empty. For weeks after the scandal broke, photographers had lingered near the entrance, hoping for a Theo Street close-up or a defensive glare. Now they were gone. There was no market for a fallen star who had already confessed. The official termination email came that afternoon. Due to ongoing reputational considerations, Silverline Pictures has chosen not to exercise the extension clause in your contract. Polite, sanitized, final. She read it twice, then a third time. 6 months had shrunk into 3. Her character would be written out organically. Organically, as if betrayal were a plot device instead of a fracture. She texted Ethan, "Is this your doing?" The reply came 20 minutes later. "It's bigger than both of us." There was no warmth in it, no apology, no nostalgia, just corporate detachment. She typed another message, erased it, typed again. "Did any of it mean anything to you?" This time no response came. The silence inside the apartment grew heavy. Clara walked from room to room, touching objects that suddenly felt borrowed. The marble countertop she'd once photographed for followers, the sleek couch where she had rehearsed lines, the balcony railing where everything had unraveled. She opened Instagram out of habit. Her follower count had plateaued, then begun its slow decline. Comments were fewer now. The outrage cycle had ended. The world had moved on. She closed the app. The quiet was worse than the noise. In Ohio, winter had begun its slow descent. Daniel shoveled snow from the driveway before work. Lily watched from the living room window. "Is Mom still famous?" she asked one evening, not looking at him. Daniel paused. "I don't know," he said honestly. Lily traced a finger through condensation on the glass. "She used to be on TV all the time." "Fame isn't permanent," he replied. She nodded, though she didn't fully understand. Children measure permanence differently. To Lily, fame and family had blurred together. Now both felt unstable. The call about her mother came on a grey Thursday afternoon. It was her aunt. "She had a stroke," the older woman said gently. It was quick. Clara sank onto the edge of her bed. When? This morning. Her mother had been healthy, strong, stubborn. They had argued just months ago about Los Angeles. "You're chasing something that won't hold you," her mother had said over the phone. Clara had laughed it off then.
Now the words felt prophetic. "The funeral Sunday," her aunt added. "We'd like you here." Of course. She hadn't been home in nearly 2 months, not since the divorce papers. She booked a flight without hesitation. Returning to Dayton felt different this time. Not triumphant, not hopeful, just necessary. The airport was small, familiar. The air colder than she remembered. No one recognized her, or if they did, they didn't react. The anonymity stung more than she expected. Daniel's car wasn't in the pickup lane. Of course it wasn't. She took a cab to her childhood home instead. The house looked smaller, the paint slightly chipped near the shutters. The porch light glowed faintly against the dusk. It had always been left on, for safety, for welcome, for return. Her aunt opened the door before she knocked. "Oh, Clara," she said, pulling her into an embrace that smelled like lavender and old wood. Inside, the house carried the weight of absence. Her mother's reading glasses still rested on the side table. A half-finished crossword lay folded on the armchair. Time had stopped mid-sentence. Clara walked slowly into the living room. Family photos lined the walls. There she was at 8 years old, standing in a school play costume. Her mother in the front row, clapping with unrestrained pride. "You were always dramatic," her mother had teased affectionately. Clara sank into the armchair and pressed her palms over her eyes. She had missed the last 3 Sunday calls. Too busy, too distracted, too consumed. The funeral was modest. Neighbors filled the pews. Old friends whispered condolences. Clara stood beside the casket, dressed in black that felt too sleek for the small-town church. She caught sight of Daniel near the back. Lily stood beside him. Her daughter had grown thinner in the weeks apart, quieter. Clara's heart tightened. After the service, she approached them slowly. "Hi," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Lily looked at her shoes instead of her face. Daniel met her eyes calmly. "I'm sorry about your mom," he said. "Thank you." 1,000 other words hovered between them. None found landing. "I'd like to talk," Clara added softly. "About what?" Daniel asked. Everything, she wanted to say. Instead, she replied, "I don't know yet." Lily tugged at Daniel's sleeve. "Can we go?" she murmured. They left before Clara could ask for a hug. That night, Clara stayed in her childhood bedroom. The posters were gone, replaced by neutral paint, but the ceiling still bore faint glow-in-the-dark stars from her teenage years. She lay beneath them, staring upward. In Los Angeles, silence had felt humiliating. Here, it felt deserved. She thought of Ethan, of studio lights, of interviews. All of it felt impossibly distant now, like scenes from a film she once auditioned for but never truly lived. Her phone remained face down on the nightstand. No notifications, no invitations, no applause. Just a soft hum of winter wind against the window. For the first time in months, there was nothing demanding her attention. No audience, no performance, only memory and regret. Somewhere down the hall, a floorboard creaked, the house settling, or perhaps reminding her that while fame fades quietly, home remembers everything. Morning in Ohio arrived without ceremony. No production assistants knocking on trailer doors. No makeup artist adjusting lighting to flatter bone structure. Just pale winter light filtering through lace curtains and the faint smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen downstairs. Clara lay still for a long time in her childhood bed, listening to the house breathe. Pipes knocking softly, floorboards shifting, the low murmur of her aunt speaking on the phone in the hallway. This house had held her first applause middle school plays performed in the living room, her mother clapping too loudly, insisting Clara bow again. It had also held her first disappointment, her first heartbreak, her first certainty that she was meant for something bigger than Dayton. Now it held her failure. After breakfast, she drove to the house she had once shared with Daniel and Lily, the one she had left behind with promises of temporary. Snow edged the lawn in thin, uneven layers. The porch light was off in daylight, but she imagined it glowing at night the way it always had. She sat in the car for nearly 5 minutes before stepping out. The spare key was still in her purse. Her hand trembled slightly as she unlocked the door. Inside, the air smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and something familiar, laundry detergent maybe. Home. Nothing dramatic had changed. The couch remained where it had always been. Lily's school drawings were still taped to the refrigerator. A stack of mail sat neatly organized on the counter. Daniel had maintained everything, not out of denial, but out of discipline. She walked slowly into the living room. On the bookshelf sat a framed photo from Cedar Point, the 3 of them sunburned and laughing. Her hand reached for it instinctively. "You can take it if you want." Daniel's voice came from behind her. She turned. He stood in the hallway, coat still on, snow melting faintly on his shoulders. "I didn't know if you'd come here," he said. "I needed to." He nodded once. There was no hostility in his expression, no visible anger. That almost hurt more. They sat at the kitchen table across from each other, the same table where the contract from Los Angeles had once rested. "I'm not here to fight," Clara said quietly. "I'm not either." Silence settled between them, not heavy but deliberate. "I thought I could manage both worlds," she continued. "I told myself I was doing it for us." Daniel folded his hands together. "Were you?" She opened her mouth, closed it. "I don't know anymore." That honesty cost her something. He studied her carefully, as if assessing not her words but their weight. "You changed," he said gently. "I know." "No," he clarified. "You were always ambitious. I love that about you. But somewhere along the way, it felt like we became optional." "Optional," the word echoed. "I never meant for you to feel that way." "Intent doesn't undo impact," he replied quietly. She flinched. That was Daniel, never cruel, but precise. The front door opened suddenly. Lily stepped inside, backpack slipping off one shoulder. She froze when she saw her mother. Time seemed to tighten. "Hi, baby," Clara whispered. Lily's eyes filled instantly, but not with relief, with conflict. "You're staying?" she asked. "For a little while." "For work?" "No," Clara said. "Just here." Lily looked at her father, then back at Clara. "Are you going to leave again?" The question wasn't dramatic. It was practical. Clara felt something inside her splinter. "I don't know what's going to happen," she answered honestly, "but I don't want to miss things anymore." "You missed my science fair," Lily said quietly, "and my soccer tournament." "I know. And when people at school showed me the pictures of you kissing that Nan, I didn't know what to say." The words landed without accusation, just fact. Clara swallowed hard. "I'm so sorry." Lily studied her face the way children do when deciding whether to believe. "Sorry doesn't make it not real," she said. Daniel's hand rested gently on Lily's shoulder. "Go put your things upstairs," he murmured. Lily hesitated, then obeyed. The sound of her footsteps on the stairs felt heavier than they should have. When the house was quiet again, Clara exhaled shakily. "She's angry," she whispered. "She's hurt," Daniel corrected. "Are you?" He considered the question. "Yes." He didn't elaborate. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said. "Not now. Maybe not ever." "That's not the point," he replied. "Then what is?" He leaned back in his chair. "The point is that Lily needs stability, not promises, not apologies, consistency." Consistency. The very thing she had once abandoned for excitement. "I don't have projects lined up," she admitted softly. "The studio dropped me." "I heard. People moved on. They always do." She looked around the kitchen, the magnets on the fridge, the small crack in the tile near the sink, the familiar dent in the wooden table from when Lily had dropped a spoon years ago. This house carried memory in its bones. Los Angeles had carried only reflection. "I thought fame would feel permanent," she confessed. Daniel gave a faint, almost sad smile. "Nothing that depends on strangers is permanent." That evening, Clara helped Lily with homework at the dining room table. The girl answered questions without looking up much, but she didn't leave. It was something. When bedtime came, Clara stood awkwardly in the doorway. "Can I read tonight?" she asked. Lily hesitated, then nodded. Clara picked up an old favorite from the shelf. Her voice trembled slightly at first, then steadied. As she read, Lily's breathing gradually softened. When the story ended, Clara brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. "I love you," she whispered. Lily didn't respond verbally, but she didn't turn away either. Later, Clara stood alone in the backyard. The air was sharp with cold. The porch light glowed above the door behind her. For months, she had stood under brighter lights, hotter, louder, more intoxicating. But none had illuminated her flaws as clearly as this quiet glow. Inside, Daniel washed dishes without being asked. The same steady movements, the same quiet dignity. She had mistaken steadiness for stagnation. She had mistaken attention for affection. And in chasing something extraordinary, she had undervalued the ordinary miracle of being chosen daily by the same person. The cost was no longer abstract. It had a face, a child's face, a husband's tired eyes, a house that had waited without applause. She wrapped her arms around herself, not from cold but from recognition. Some losses cannot be reversed, some forgiveness cannot be demanded, but presence. Presence could still be offered, and for the first time since she boarded that flight to Los Angeles, Clara understood that redemption would not come from reclaiming a spotlight. It would come from earning back the right to stand in this quiet, unwavering light. Snow fell overnight, softening the sharp edges of everything. Clara woke before dawn on the living room couch, the same couch she had once left in a rush for a flight to Los Angeles. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that didn't accuse, didn't demand. It simply existed. For months, silence had felt like punishment. Here, it felt like invitation. She sat up slowly, wrapping the blanket tighter around her shoulders. In the dim light, she could see the faint outline of the Christmas decorations Daniel hadn't yet taken down. A half-packed box of ornaments rested near the fireplace. She had missed Christmas. Not because she was filming, but because she had chosen not to interrupt a weekend getaway with Ethan when the scandal was still hidden and thrilling. The memory burned now, not dramatic, not explosive, just steady and unbearable. Footsteps approached from the hallway. Daniel paused when he saw her awake. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. "I slept," she said quietly, "just not deeply." He nodded and walked toward the kitchen. She followed. "Daniel," she began. He turned, waiting. "I'm not here to ask you to reconsider the divorce." Something flickered across his face, relief maybe, or disappointment at feeling relief. "I know what I did," she continued, "and I know saying I was confused or overwhelmed doesn't change anything." He didn't interrupt. "I hurt you," she said, "and I hurt Lily. I don't have a defense for that." The words felt different this time, less frantic, less desperate, more grounded. "I kept telling myself I deserved something bigger," she admitted, "but I never stopped to ask whether I was abandoning something already whole." Daniel exhaled slowly. "Clara," he said gently, "I don't hate you." She swallowed. "That almost makes it harder. I just don't know how to trust you right now." "That's fair." The simplicity of her acceptance hung between them. No bargaining, no persuasion, just truth. Later that morning, Clara drove to the local elementary school. She hadn't told Lily she was coming. She stood near the fence lining the soccer field during recess, hands tucked into her coat pockets. Children ran in uneven lines, laughter rising in small clouds of white breath. Lily stood near the goalpost, kicking snow lightly with the toe of her boot. When she looked up and saw her mother, she froze. Clara didn't wave, didn't call out. She simply stayed. After a moment, Lily jogged over cautiously. "You're not supposed to be here," she said. "I know," Clara replied. "I just wanted to watch." "Why?" "Because I've missed a lot." Lily studied her face carefully. "Are you going back to California?" "No." "For how long?" Clara knelt so they were eye level. "For as long as you need me to be here." Lily hesitated. "That sounds like a trick answer." Clara let out a small sad laugh. "It's not. I don't have a job waiting for me there anymore." Lily's expression shifted, something like confusion, maybe even fear. "So you're not famous?" The question was innocent, blunt. "I don't think so," Clara said softly. "Does that make you sad?" She considered it honestly. "It makes me different," she answered, "but I don't think it makes me sad." Lily was quiet for a long moment, then she asked, "Are you going to lie again?" The wind seemed to still. "No," Clara said. "If I ever feel like leaving again, I'll tell you first, I promise." Lily didn't hug her, but she didn't walk away immediately either. The bell rang. "Bye, Mom," she said before running back toward the building. Mom, not Clara, not a headline. Mom. Weeks passed. The divorce process continued, quietly paper signed, assets divided. There were no courtroom confrontations, no dramatic speeches, just paperwork. Clara moved into a small rental house 10 minutes away, close enough for shared custody, far enough to respect space. She took a job teaching part-time drama workshops at the local community center. The pay was modest, the stage was small, but when she watched the shy 12-year-old girl deliver her first monologue with trembling courage, Clara felt something warm rise in her chest. Not applause, purpose. One evening after class, she checked her phone out of habit. An email from a mid-level streaming platform waited in her inbox. "We are developing a limited series. Would you be interested in auditioning?" Her pulse quickened automatically. The old reflex, the old hunger. She stared at the screen for a long time, then she closed the email without replying. Not because she was afraid, but because she understood now that ambition without boundaries becomes erosion. If she ever stepped back into that world, it would have to be on different terms. Honest terms. One night, Danielle knocked on her door unexpectedly. Lily had fallen asleep in the backseat during a movie night, and he needed help carrying her inside. Together, they lifted their daughter carefully, her head resting against Danielle's shoulder. Inside Clara's small living room, they laid Lily on the couch. For a brief moment, they stood close in the quiet. "She seems steadier lately," Danielle said. "She does. You being here helps." The words were not romantic, they were factual. "I'm not going anywhere," Clara replied. He looked at her not with the old certainty of marriage, but with cautious recognition. "Good," he said. When he left, Clara stood at the doorway, watching his car disappear down the street. There was no dramatic reconciliation, no sudden embrace, just gradual rebuilding, brick by brick, moment by moment. That night, Clara stepped onto her small porch. The air was cold but clear. No paparazzi, no red carpets, no flashing lights. Only a single porch bulb glowing softly above her head. She remembered standing on a balcony in Los Angeles, city lights glittering below like promises. Those lights had dazzled, but they had also blinded. This light was smaller, steadier. It illuminated only what was near: her hands, her doorstep, the quiet street where her daughter rode her bike. She no longer heard phantom applause in the hum of appliances or the rush of wind. Instead, she heard something gentler. The sound of a door opening when she arrived on time. The sound of laughter from the kitchen. The sound of her own voice, unamplified, telling the truth. Forgiveness had not been declared. Trust had not been restored. But presence had begun. And when the lights of fame faded completely into memory, Clara finally understood. Home was never something she had to chase. It was something she had to choose. Every single day.